Well, I think TLOs typically understand that the first money a startup venture raises is absolutely its most expensive money. And therefore they should take as little of that money as possible, and that money should go into the development of the technology. So a TLO is probably not going to ask for a cash license fee. They may, probably will, ask for at least part of the patent costs back up front. If the patent costs have got too substantial, then they'll perhaps be prepared to phase those over several years. And one of the things I've seen in some of these express licenses that we've seen talked about recently is perhaps a one-year holiday on any patent costs reimbursement at all. If we're not going to take cash, what are we going to take? Well, startup companies have got lots of stock. And so typically the university is going to look to be compensated for the initial value of the technology through an ownership stake in the company. There are typically two approaches that universities use. One is when the university gets treated as a founder. So if you've got, a prof, two postdocs and a CEO, four founders, then the university will say, okay, now there are 5 founders. And the university will get a fairly large ownership stake at the startup phase and then take its dilution alongside everybody else. Second, and probably a more common approach, is what we call the anti-dilution approach. And on this, the university says, look, I don't know what this company's worth. I don't know how much more stock you're going to issue before you start raising finance. So I don't care how much stock I own now. What I care about is what I own after serious people have put serious money in and done a serious valuation of this company. So give me 5% of the company and keep me at 5% until, say, 5 million has gone in. So that would be a fairly common kind of startup terms, 5% to 5 million. It may be accompanied by preemptive rights, which says that after the 5 million is reached, the university has the right, but not the obligation, to invest in the company pro rata going forward to maintain its 5%. For that to be worth anything, the university has to have access to investment funds to be able to make that investment. And not that many universities do, but there are starting to be funds created which will do that investment for the university and share part of the profit with the university. So I think you're going to see preemptive rights continue to be a aspect of startup deal terms. I've always found they went through very smoothly. And I think academic technologies, most people acknowledge, have a relatively low value on the day they're transferred because they are very embryonic. The patents are typically not yet granted. They're still pending and so forth. But then as the technology moves forward, its value increases as its risks go down. And so the university typically will want to see a series of milestone payments as the technology reaches well-established steps on its way to the marketplace. Physical sciences, a prototype, something like that. Life sciences, a lead candidate or a device getting locked in place. An IND being filed, subsequent phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, milestones for drug development and so forth. And there will be a series of payments getting larger as they get further out and as the technology gets close to market. There will probably be an annual minimum royalty payment. Pretty minimal, probably perhaps a holiday for a couple of 3 years, then a modest 10,000 a year, then for 2 or 3 years, 25,000 for another 2 or 3 years, then getting up to sort of 50 or 100,000 when the technology is 8, 9, 10 years out from the university. And then finally, royalties on product sales. Typically in the low single digits. One of the models that we've been using at Boston University recently is rather than going for a royalty of 5 or 6%, which then brings issues of royalty stacking and how do we offset third-party royalties, and then what do we do with if the technology gets sub-licensed. We tend to go for a lower royalty rate, say 3%, and that passes through to sales by sub-licensees, and it's not non-offsettable. So that tends to accelerate negotiation, a couple of what tend to be the most contentious terms in the license negotiation.